We're at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, outside the Microsoft Cafe. I'm here with Olga Feldmeier, the CEO of Smart Valor. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sara, for inviting me.
So, help me understand, what is Smart Valor?
Smart Valor is a decentralized marketplace for tokenized alternative investments.
And what is a tokenized alternative investment?
I kind of guessed that you will ask about tokenized and not about alternative with your background. Well, tokenized, we see first implementations of tokenization today. It's basically ICOs, right? Where you take an ownership in a company that can represent utility or certain usage rights. Tokenized equity is also coming, right?
Sure.
But it's basically asset or right-backed tokens, right? And it was very clear to see that this tokenization of equity or participation in startups, this is just the first step. Actually, you can tokenize anything, right? If you like my coat, do you like my coat?
Yes, I do very much.
Maybe I become famous and this one becomes, something for Sotheby's, then we can tokenize Olga's coat.
So, if you're tokenizing alternative investments, does that mean that you're going to create a platform for people to raise money through tokenization for hedge funds and things like that?
Yes, there are a lot of like alternative investment space is huge, right? There are so many different asset classes. I think where tokenization is most valuable is more in illiquid asset classes, right? For example, such as venture capital or private equity, right? Why? Because you see, by the nature of those investments, you are binded, you as investor, binded for a very long time, right? 7-8 years. Plus, the stakes, if you want to participate in an interesting private equity fund, right? The stakes are very high. So the tokenization, like imagine, just a very simple example, we would take 20% of APAC's infrastructure fund 3F and tokenize just those 20%, right? And this is kind of like becomes a liquid part of this fund, right? Because the token can be, it's like Bitcoin, it's divisible
among
and
people.
It can be traded on the blockchain.
So even though the token in itself isn't liquid, I mean, what it represents, but people can exchange
exactly. And but the liquidity is going to be created, through this fractional ownership that a lot of people participated on a global scale, right? So you have, like, look at Bitcoin, look at cryptocurrencies, right? A lot of them also don't have such a huge amount of people involved in them, right? And nobody knows, like, why, Cardano should be valued at this or that, right? So all the same problems that we have with traditional alternative asset classes, right? But through creating, supply and demand and efficient way to exchange ownership on the blockchain, right? This is how we create more liquidity.
And what stage are you in with this project?
Well, you see, to all of those projects that involve, cryptocurrencies and new applications of blockchain technologies, the key implementation hurdle is regulation, right? Because you see, for us, it's also, what's so special for us, we accept money through cryptocurrencies, right? You can buy us, doesn't matter where you are, you can buy us your Bitcoin, and from Bitcoin you can invest in all alternative investments. So the biggest challenge is regulation, and we are working on this one, right? So we are working on specific licenses that will enable us to run this marketplace, this Amazon, right? And on building the technical platform, the licensing process is still in place, but we're gonna we hope that we're gonna launch within the 5 to 6 months.
Oh, great! And before this, you were at Coinbase competitor Xapo.
Yes, exactly.
Can you tell me what your role was there?
Officially, I was commercial managing partner. De facto, I was most of the time in charge of regulatory issues that we were facing here in Switzerland. That was quite interesting experience because, we were one of the first companies coming from US here to Switzerland to try to find a proper regulatory solution, right? Back in 2013-14, as a Bitcoin business, you were illegal anywhere, right? Everybody was like, oh, Bitcoin, we don't touch that, right? And FINMA, Swiss regulator, actually did a great job of looking into our business, understanding how it works, what does it mean, secure custody of private and public keys, right? And, giving it way to find a proper, regulatory solution, not trying to regulate it like really hard and to say, oh guys, you need a banking license. They kind of did it at the beginning, but they changed their mind later, which enables us then later to get a license as financial intermediary, being, regulated through self-regulating organization.
Yeah.
And it's a big difference, if you have to apply for banking license or just SRO, right?
Yeah.
So that was a very big success case, I think, for the Bitcoin industry as such, not just for example.
And do you think Switzerland is really going to become a hub for crypto talent?
Totally.
Is it already happening?
It will take a while, because look what we had until now, like we had the biggest cases, Xapo, and now we have with ICO, a lot of like probably half of the biggest ICOs are taking place in Switzerland. Because Swiss law is not so clear about, it leaves a space about definition of security or is it not security, right? So, and even if it's security, it's not that bad as if it's security in US, right? But still, even in this space, we need much more clear regulation. And I know that FINMA is working on this. They're going to release something within the next several weeks. But also, that's just one part. But we need some solution for banking light, for fintech companies or blockchain companies that kind of like, in that space and that normally would require banking license. So we need like this small banking license. So hopefully this one is coming. Liechtenstein already introduced this one, just 1 million.
Oh, wow.
You can run a bank. So this is exciting. This is the options that we are going for. And of course, Switzerland then needs to create also a proper environment for startups to be able to operate out of Switzerland, to be able to hire, people from abroad, which is today very difficult, a special tax regime for startups. So, like, President of Switzerland last week announced it in St. Moritz. He would like to see crypto nation Switzerland appearing, right? I'm very happy about that because it's kind of like commitment from the highest political level. They can't just say it and don't do anything about it. Now they really need to do it, right? So I'm very excited about it.
And I generally, like, the regulation comes in, it does create a lot of difficulties, but it also helps protect people. And with any new sort of structure, financial structure, especially like with all the ICOs we're seeing, for people who are just getting interested in this, what percentage of those do you think are nonsense?
From ICOs?
Yeah.
It was, it's kind of developing, it's a dynamic process. It's been, I think, quite bad for a while. I would say like 2/3 or maybe even 80% were like really shady stuff. Like you look at people and you look at their background and you think, oh, how much you want, guys? 20 million, really? So, but this is changing. We now see a lot of companies that, would go for venture capital funding, great companies, guys already did one startup before succeed or didn't succeed, but on the good track, right? And now they're just like, well, if I go to VC, I mean, I have to spend 1.5 years doing all the road shows and then I get just, enough for 1.5, 2 years. Yeah. So why don't I go for ICO, right? So now we see more and more companies that would otherwise go VC fund. So I think the quality is improving. And this is what we need in this space, right?
Great. And last question, what do you think about Bitcoin's price? Where do you think it should be? What do you think the true value of a Bitcoin is?
Oh, the true value. That's a good
true
question.
Value, I use that very loosely.
Yeah, well, we kind of tried also to analyze, the true value, like with actually we modeled, how use cases of Bitcoin, how much Bitcoin, at which price, at which speed is going to be used in remittances business, how much in payments, how this drives the demand, right, and how is the supply is behaving, and then calculate the price. But if you look at those models, like like the numbers are really great, like 500,000 and so on, right? So it's difficult to say, right? But I truly believe Bitcoin has a potential, like within this year, maybe 2 years, to go to 100,000, right? And of course, in the meantime, on the way there, it can drop again 70%, right? But it's just the way it is, right? I think what is worrying a little bit is that, you know, this recent price rally, you know, it created, and also with other cryptocurrencies, right? Like look at Ripple or Stellar, they were like 30,000% last year, right? So Bitcoin was nothing in comparison to those. But you know, the point is like this now attracts retail investors. This is actually not such a good thing, because retail investors cannot afford to lose this money, right? So when Bitcoin does again this, like minus 50%, which we are used to, right? But those people get panicked, right? And they will sell. And that will drive even more volatility, right? And we don't need more volatility in Bitcoin, right?